Hello, everyone, and welcome to this lesson. We are definitely glad and excited that you are here. Now, this is lesson number 2. And lesson number 2, the topic or the title is prime numbers. Prime numbers, factors, and multiples. So the topic is prime numbers, factors, and multiples. Let's begin. Okay, so first off, what is a factor? Well, a factor is a number that divides into another number evenly. And when we say evenly, we mean that there's no remainder left over. So it says without leaving any remainder. And when we say that there's no remainder left over, we mean that the quotient or the answer that you get when you divide these two numbers is a whole number. There's no fractions, no decimals, it's a whole number. So what are the factors of 12? Well, the factors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, and 12. Now you may ask, why are these the factors of 12? Well, these are factors of 12 because when we take 12 and divide it with any one of these numbers, we get a whole number. There's no remainder left over. Take, for example, 12 divided by 2. Well, 12 divided by 2 is 6. That's a whole number. There's no remainder left over. And so that's how we know that 2 is a factor of 12. And the same is true for all of these numbers. If we take these numbers and divide them with 12, our answer, our quotient, is a whole number. No remainder left over. It divides evenly. Next, let's consider multiples. Now, what is a multiple? A multiple is a number that is the product of multiplying a certain number by an integer. Now, when you hear multiple, think multiply, think multiplication table, think product. And so, if we consider the multiples of 5, well, what is the timetables of 5? If I ask you to list the multiples of 5, just think 5, just think multiply. So 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, 5 times 3 is 15, and the list goes on and on. These are your timetables. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, and the list goes on and on. So for multiples, think multiply. Next, let's consider a prime number. Well, a prime number is a natural number greater than 1 that only has two factors, 1 and itself. It's important to note that 1 is neither prime nor composite. So when we're considering prime numbers, we are not considering 1. We're considering numbers that are greater than 1. So we start with 2. So prime numbers are numbers that only have two factors, 1 in itself. So what are some prime numbers? We have 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, 19, 23, 29, and the list goes on and on. These are prime numbers. They only have two factors, 1 and itself. It's important to note that 2 is the only even number that is prime. 2 is the only even number that is prime. Now, let's move on to composite numbers. Now, composite numbers, these are natural numbers that have more than two factors. So they are basically the opposite of prime numbers. These numbers are not prime. So these have more than two factors. So let's consider these composite numbers. We have 4, 6, 8, 9, 12. Sorry, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12, 14, 15, 16, and 18. These are composite numbers. They have more than two factors. Take, for example, 12, right? 12. How many factors does 12 have? Well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 has 6 factors. So it's definitely not prime because if it was prime, it only would have two factors, 1 in itself. So 12 is definitely a composite number. It has more than two factors. The same is true for all of these. These composite numbers have more than two factors, but prime numbers only has two factors, 1 in itself. Let's move on to a multiple, a common multiple. Let's start with that. Common multiple. What do we mean by a common multiple? Well, a common multiple is the following. A number a number that is a multiple of two or more numbers at the same time. So it is a multiple of two or more numbers at the same time. So let's consider the multiples of 2. Remember when I said with multiples, just think timetables. So what are the multiples of 2? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 16. Okay, good. What are the multiples of 4? 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Good. Now what are the common multiples of 2 and 4? Well, the common multiples of 2 and 4, what numbers are alike in both lists? Well, 4 is 4 and 4, so 4 is common in both. 8 and 8, 8 is common in both. 12 and 12, 12 is common in both. So some of the common multiples of 2, and 4 are 4, 8, 12. And the reason why I say some is because there are more common multiples. We just have to list it. Oh, we didn't include 16. Let me include 16. 16 is also a common multiple. So let's include 16. 16 is also a common multiple. All right. And if we iterate these lists more and more, we will find more common multiples. So for the ones that we see right now, the only ones that we see are 4, 8, 12, and 16. Like I said, there are more. So these are what we call common multiples. So common multiples of 2 and 4 are 4, 8, 12, 16, and the list goes on and on. Okay, so what do we mean when we say lowest common multiple? Well, the lowest common multiple is just going to be the smallest number out of all the common multiples. So if we consider our common multiples 4, 8, 12, and 16, which one is the smallest one? And the smallest one is definitely 4. 4 is the smallest one. So that's the lowest. So the lowest common multiple, or the smallest number out of all the common multiples, is going to be 4. The LCM of 2 and 4 is 4. Let's move on to a common factor. Well, a common factor is a number, I should say number, not numbers. So a common factor is a number that is a factor of two or more numbers at the same time. So that means that if we list out the factors of these two numbers, the ones that are common, the ones that are alike, that's what we're going to call the common factors. So here we have the factors of 12 and the factors of 18 listed out. Which numbers are common in both? Well, 1 is common in both, 2 is common in both, 3 is common in both, 6 is common in both as well. So the common factors of 12 and 18 are 1, 2, 3, and 6. Next, let's move on to highest common factor. Now, what is the highest common factor? Well, the greatest number out of all the common factors, that's the highest common factor. The greatest number out of all the common factors. So let's look at our common factors of 12 and 18. That's 1, 2, 3, and 6. Which one is the greatest or the biggest out of these common factors? Well, 6 is the biggest. So the HCF of 12 and 18 is 6 because it's the biggest or it's the greatest of all of the common factors. We also say that the highest common factor is also the GCF. So you might see GCF. GCF and HCF mean the same thing. GCF refers to greatest common factor, HCF is highest common factor, but they mean the same thing. They're referring to the same number. Okay, so that brings us to the end of lesson number 2. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all on the next one. Take care.